Storm DJs Podcasts.
Welcome back to the Storm DJs Podcast, the DJ interviews. I'm thrilled to present our 27th episode, and today we have a truly unique and talented guest for you. She's known for her infectious vibe, dynamic track selection, and her passion for DJing is through the roof. Get ready to be inspired as we sit down with the one and only DJ Sarah Giggle. In this interview, she opens up about her life, her DJ career, and why she used to do fire breathing.
Yay!
How are you doing? Good to see you. Okay, so we're going to dive straight in. So tell us about your current stage name, and have you had any previous ones?
Do you know what? No, I've always just been Sarah Giggle. When I first started DJing, well, actually, it's before DJing that I had the name, and everyone said just keep it because everyone knows you as that now, so it'd be stupid to change it. So basically, I used to do modelling, and everyone was like, oh, you can't keep the same name. Stalkers will find you. No one's going to stalk me. But back in the day, people did used to stalk people quite a lot. Well, nowadays, it's probably worse. But no, so everyone was like, well, what do you want your name to be then? Sarah Lou, Sarah Smith. And I was like, they're all so boring. I went, what do you want? Sarah Dash. And I was like, I actually really like that. Because I was always like the slightly crazy one out there. Like, I was never just your typical modeler or presenter at an event, just being normal. I was always the one where everyone was like, oh my God, what is she up to now? So it was only right that I took a random name. And then it kind of just stuck.
So there was a slight penchant for giggling at everything, was there? Or is it just the madness element?
No, I made everybody laugh.
Okay. So comedian Sarah.
I used to kind of be the one that wouldn't be your typical walking down the grid being all polite and innocent. I'd be the one that, oh my God, look at that.
And do you think you changed?
Come on. No, got a little bit more subdued, but as in, like, I'm not hanging onto the side of a car doing 40 on the road on my roller skates. I always used to do strange things where everyone was like that. Are you sure you don't need to be on something like Jackass? And I was like, well.
We loved that one. So that's the sort of history behind your name, your brand. I don't think that's likely to change, is it, based on your personality? So how did DJing start for you?
Well, basically, I used to do presenting, car shows, modelling, fire breathing, aerial hoops, stilts and things like that.
Wait a minute, fire breathing, where did that bit come in?
Yeah. Originally, when I first started doing anything random, I did big dance shows for, like I did the tour with Damage in Faliraki. I used to dance in Faliraki. I used to do big stage shows, work for a lot of the nightclubs, Ministry, things like that. And then when you dance, it's great, but as in the more things you can do, the better the pay is, the better the gigs you get. So I literally started doing fire and stilts and aerial hoops. So it then all became one thing. And it sounds silly. That meant I was always in clubs. But that's also why I didn't change my name, because everyone already knew, oh, it's Giggle on today. So when I went to DJing, it'd be silly to have changed my name because most of the people that I worked with already knew that I was Sarah Giggle. So it was like, I might as well just keep it. And then, so I decided that I was getting a bit older for that and that I needed to probably chill my life out a bit. Well, it didn't happen, and just go to something a little bit more subdued rather than dancing 7 days a week and stuff like that. Because also it takes its toll on you mentally as well because you're working all the time. And I thought DJing was going to give me that. I was sat in the pub and one of the boys said, oh, I'm doing the DJ competition. And I was all like, that's hard because I was stressed at the time. And he went, go on, why don't you do it as well then? And I went, go on then, we'll do it. Like there used to be a TV show called Faking It. So basically you would have a person that was going to try and become something after a month, and they would see if they could learn the skills, do it, and then be basically the one that wasn't the fake. So I was like, go on, I'll do it like that. So within a month, I'd bought myself a set of 12 tens. I'd got a package deal where I got records with it as well. And I decided to teach myself to DJ. So I had one lesson off a mate of mine. Previously to that, one of my friends did used to DJ and I used to watch him a lot. And obviously I'd been in the industry a very long time. And after a month, I did the competition and I ruined the last mix. I got cocky and decided to try and put two things together. But I was on vinyl and on CDJs.
Oh, wow.
And I messed it up slightly. But they said, look, we'll give you a wild card to do another round in 2 weeks' time. I messed up the first mix that time. But they were like, you're actually quite good for someone that hasn't really done it long. You ought to keep it up. So I did. And within 3 months, I'd got a radio show with someone and I loved it. And then within 6 months, I was playing out in Egypt for fashion TV. So that was pretty cool. But I think some of that, I'm not going to lie, some of it came from the links I already had. Like, they were like, look, you can come out, we'll put you on the dance tour, but we'll get you DJing 4 nights a week. Like around it. So I was the warm up, hand working. And then after that, I literally got flown out there just to be a DJ.
Super.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good.
Then I went to Ibiza. That didn't go quite to plan. Ibiza was very cliquey. The first year I went there, Ibiza was very cliquey. And they were like, no. And I was like, no, I'm a DJ. Anyway, a friend of mine said, Sarah, if you want to earn good money, you'll do your dance stage shows at night and do fire shows and stuff. But in the day, I've got you a residency in a bar in Maldives. I had the best season I've ever had. Loved it. Played every day. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. Worked over the amount. Stayed out there till October because their season's longer than Ibiza. And loved it. The next year I did go back and I completed Ibiza, and I've still got the record for the most amount of bars paid in the first season.
Wow. Well, that is impressive.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the pay's not great, but it's still paid.
Where were you in Ibiza when you sort of worked there? Was it all over the shop?
I rate any DJ that actually does full seasons out there and works Sanam, because that is harder than any other place, because you are literally catering for everyone. I've done everywhere from plastic. I did stuff for Pucker Up Bar, Head Candy. I opened the Eden main room on 1 year. As in opened Eden. I was the resident for 1 summer.
Was privilege still around when you were there?
I went when I was 17 because my mum and my nan gave in, and finally, because my best friend went out there the year before when she was 17 and she was about to turn 18. Nowadays, clubs go for all the pyrotechnics and things like that. They all went for like interactive experiences in the clubs, and I don't think as many do that anymore. I kind of mixed house. Originally, I was more house and garage than anything else. Now, I play it almost anything. I don't really play any trance. Not really planning to. I'm not really overly into my indie, as I found out recently.
Especially with those genre changes, you don't really get the same abilities to mix stuff, really, do you?
And I was like, okay, never again.
Too much fading in and out.
No, just too much confusion and stress. It's actually more stressful than I've ever found a gig in my life.
Yeah. Did you have any sort of big names influence you in your beginnings of the DJ stuff? And
the one person who I'd say that I think is not underestimated, but he is an amazing talent, and he was before technology became as advanced as it is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking people like James Hype, because he's good at what he does, but as in, he's done it with all the functions of an auto cue. So for me, I never wanted to be like anyone, because I always wanted to just be what I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the different performance equipment and stuff, and you started out with your 1210s.
I'm a USB DJ and I do tricks somewhat, but I don't need all the trickery and all the stuff. But I did play on the weekend on 3000s and I actually really liked them. So the touchscreen is amazing.
Basically, if you owned a club or owned a bar, you'd probably want a pair of CDJ 3000s, wouldn't you?
No, that was it. That was my first gig. Exactly like Faking It.
So following on from that, what was your first gig after that, where it was actually just you and no competition involved?
Little bar gigs and things like that. But then it was fashion TV in Egypt in April. I learnt in the August 2008, and by April I was in Egypt playing.
I suppose for you, in terms of being in front of an audience and things like that, wasn't really anything new because of all the stuff you'd done before then.
Oh, but you do learn, as I learned. Different cultures and different people like different music. On my first, I think it was 3 weeks in, I played Dreamer, which I count as a classic club. No, the Russian people in my venue did not have a clue what it was, and they just all left the dance floor. When I say all of them left the dance floor, I mean all of them left the dance floor. The Egyptian guy next to me threw me 2 CDs, because we were on CDs back in 2008. And he said, play track 9, play track 7, you'll get them back. Don't lose it again. And it made me understand reading the crowd. I think to learn that early on was one of my biggest key bonuses, if that makes sense. Because it means that you can see as soon as 2 or 3 go, change the tune. Doesn't matter what it is, change it. Unless it's a wedding.
Looking back through your history of millions of gigs, is there any particular one or a selection of few that sort of stand out as being the best gigs ever?
Yeah, definitely. F1 this weekend, last year, hopefully next year. I love cars, because obviously I used to do the car shows. I used to love it. So for me, I miss that side of things. And in a way, nowadays, I see people that are doing all of it. And I wish in a way I'd not stopped because I would have done more as well. But at the time, if you tried to do a crossover, you were always seen as not a good enough DJ. So I always felt like I had to give up one thing to be able to do another. Whereas nowadays, I think you can be an Instagram person, you can do DJing, you can do this. Don't get me wrong, somewhat you're taking a little bit with a pinch of salt. But then if you're good at what you do, you'll still be able to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think back in the day, I feel like people judged it a lot more. So I stopped doing one thing to just do another. And in a way, I wish I hadn't, because I used to love the car events. But next year, there's so many things that I actually just want to try and get that gig, which sounds silly, but as in, I think I'm at a point now where there's certain gigs that I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to hold certain dates hoping that I get that because it's something that I've always wanted. And so F1 is always amazing. I absolutely love it. It's such a high gig. I love it.
Have you done any E-Prix gigs, as in the electronic Formula One gigs?
Don't even go there. I got asked to do it 2 years ago, and I couldn't get back from up north to do my PCR test, so I couldn't be put on the lineup. This year, 2 weeks after I signed a contract for a gig, they asked, could you do it? And I was like, so I'm hoping next year. That's one of the ones next year. So next year, I want F1. Well, I'd love to have, here we go, this is putting it out to the universe, F1, Goodwood, and Formula E. They're the three that I'd love to have. But this year, I played the Shard. That was pretty amazing because I've never been in the Shard. I play a lot of rooftop venues, which I think are amazing. It's really nice to be able to play a lovely looking venue as well as a lovely clientele venue. It's not every venue I play at, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there's certain venues where you're like, I love playing there. I played the British Museum. That was amazing. For me, certain events are the things that I love playing at. And I think once you've done quite a few bars and clubs, you actually somewhat prefer different venues rather than bars and clubs, if that makes sense. I've got my own record label, but I did it for a good 6 years. I've got 9 releases. But when they all finished being with the labels that they were with, I re-released them under my own label.
Okay.
So Random Antics is the label that they're all on. They're on iTunes, Spotify. They all got released second time round exactly how I wanted them to. Liked it, but I don't feel like you get enough good feedback from it.
I think with production side of stuff, it's all about going over and over and over and releasing track after track after track until one of them bites, you know.
But I find a big chunk of it is now a popularity contest or what suddenly became big on TikTok. I'm just like, you either like it or you don't.
And with your tracks, do you sort of have them and play them out whenever you can still just to advertise
still play
them?
Somewhat, but I don't kind of play that kind of music much anymore.
Is it quite energetic?
Yeah, funnily enough. I've got an R&B tune.
Here's your challenge then. And when you do your Primark gig next week, you could play every single one of your tracks.
The kind of R&B-ish one is the one that I would still play in most places because it's the less, I don't know.
We'll have to try and put some links.
No one believes it's me singing it though.
How do you feel AI is going to impact the DJ industry over the next 5 years?
I feel like things are a bit too intrusive these days. People sign up to things too quickly sometimes. Yeah. Can our AI really read the minds of everyone in a venue at the time? Can it suddenly decipher something that was played 20 years ago that would probably go down really well at that moment in time? Is it going to be able to do that? And also, why are we doing this? No, they could take over from us in general, which I think is even more scary. Like, look at Black Mirror. Don't do it, people. Stop AI. It scares me. No, but it scares me because I think, what if we do make something that actually can't be stopped? So it then does take over because it is more clever than all of us. That scares me more than anything.
Unfortunately, that's the way things are heading in terms of things being too intelligent and too smart. The only thing we can do at this stage is to try and control it somewhat. But even that's going to be hard. So in terms of how it would affect DJ industry, your call on that, I mean, who knows? I
don't know. I think it'll affect it, but not always for the best. It will start writing songs. It will make TikTok things even more insanely, crazily hyped up and stuff like that. I don't know if it's for the best, but that's coming from an older generation. The younger generation will probably absolutely love it, jump on it and be excited by it. The older generation remember both sides of a coin. I think the more you take away real interaction, the more you take away people's empathy, people's understanding, people's actual reasoning in mentally, and people's mental health. I'm very worried for the next generations and stuff like that because I just don't think it's good for anyone's health.
No.
But It might all work in everyone's favour.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you? Extremely weird.
I'd just say I'm very quirky. On a 1 to 10, I would go that I'm probably a 6, 7.
Do you wake up thanking the Lord? Do you thank the music? Do you pray to the AI?
I'm not very spiritual in that sense, but I always think when you put out something, you kind of get it back. And I didn't always used to believe that. I work with some amazing companies like yourselves, some other agencies, and I'm grateful that I'm with good agencies that work to get me the right gigs, if that makes sense. I literally play gigs that I really enjoy, and I'm really grateful for that because not every DJ can say that. COVID was definitely an experience. It was one that made me realise I can have a normal job. I used to live stream baking every day for my niece and nephew, which actually turned into quite a few people watching it every day. So for me, it was really frustrating not being able to DJ. But having work in another sense gave me a kind of purpose to not be stressed in that sense. And also the government help was about as helpful as a chocolate teapot in Dubai. Because if you were self-employed, it was a lot harder to sort that, especially if you were low earning self-employed. I did painting. That's one of mine up on the wall there. But I saw so many people that did wicked live streams and started doing the production stuff loads. And in a way, I was like, oh, I probably should have done that. I was lucky because I had the pass to go out. I was still going to the park a lot, walking nothing. I was walking the dog, but it was just me walking because I had a pass to be able to drive to places. That was one thing that really, really was not the best, is not having a gym. That was just weird for me. I lived in Manchester at the time, and we actually got to come out of lockdown a lot sooner than London because we were allowed outdoor areas, whereas London doesn't have many outdoor areas. No. So we were DJing back in bars and stuff.
I was just browsing through your tunes on
really?
YouTube.
Instagram, and I saw the kid on the bus that's being abusive. What is wrong with children these days?
I think we're delving into politics now. Dangerous area. I just feed back that there's a lot of heavy bass lines in that music. And it sort of reminds me a bit of Hannah Wants.
Great.
Is that not what you're aiming for? Okay.
What do you mean, Lorenzo? Not that I'm going controversial with that comment, but yeah.
Yeah, similar style. Lonely is quite a good one from what I literally just flicked through really fast. There's a lot.
That's one string to add to the 10.
There's a lot of energy in a lot of those, actually. I'm quite impressed. I'd say keep playing them out as much as possible. No, anyway, I
don't play the venues to play them out in anymore. I play more chilled than that now.
Well,
I made them back in, let me think, 2008. So when did I release? Probably first release would have been probably about 2013, 2014.
But have you got the original stems and stuff and all the original production? Or you could just do quick remix, make them more chilled out, slot them in, easy.
For me, I liked producing, but not enough to want to do it all the time. I prefer DJing.
So yeah, I suppose you could use the current stems technology to just rip out the bits you want.
You do have to have better equipment though. Like one of my friends talks about stems all the time, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I'm a USB girl. Okay. Well, I use Rekordbox.
Oh yeah, but not the interface.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, have you upgraded to 6? And I'm like, no, I think I still run 5.
I think it's just more likely to have issues if you're using the actual laptop rather than the USB.
I'm a USB person. I know where my folders are. It's all fine.
Tell us something you're not very good at.
Dating. I'm not good at dating ever. I never have been. I think I scare people.
Is it literally?
Probably just being me. My downfall is probably just being Sarah. I think a lot of people say, for a guy, you're very intimidating in the sense of you're a DJ, you play golf, you've raced cars, you used to do fire breathing and presenting, you're very outspoken, you're quite lively. I rarely get dates, work comes first. So typically, if I've got 5 gigs one weekend, you're not going to see me. And is that going to change? No, because work comes first. For a long time.
Tell us something that you think is true, but no one else thinks is true.
Pineapples on pizza.
It's all about being open to new flavour combinations. But yeah, I don't judge pineapple as being that crazy, really. Can you describe your ideal sandwich?
That is not quite a sandwich because I like the baguette stuff. Do you know what I used to have when I was in Greece? And this is probably a little bit controversial in a way, I suppose. Do you know the other thing? Poundland do a really nice chicken and stuffing sandwich, you know.
Describe your morning routine.
Probably not. My morning routine, just wake up. That's about it.
Being a DJ / artist, would you be normally waking up afternoon rather than morning, or do you still do mornings?
A lot of my gigs now tend to finish 12, 1 in the mornings, really the latest, because I've moved to more corporate restaurant bar style. It's nicer because it's not so many late nights, which means that now in the daytime I tend to get up around probably around 9 o'clock, and then I literally just do gym and just go through tunes, sort out bookings, just generally just potter around. Sometimes I sit and paint in the afternoon if I'm not working. That's about it. I learn about things a lot. Like all of a sudden I'm like, right, I want to do investing, so I'll go off and learn about that. I'm one of these that likes to learn lots of weird things.
Got to keep your brain active. And picture yourself DJing at the end of the world party, just before AI makes the world explode. What will be your final track for the end?
For me, I'm torn between 2 tracks. One, Kings of Tomorrow, finally, because that's a tune, no matter what. That's always a tune. But also, Surprised to See Your Suitcase at the Door. I love that song. So for end of world party, imagine that. Do you reckon anyone will actually celebrate it? I'm not really well saying that. If you put it on Instagram or TikTok these days, everyone will celebrate it anyway. AI will just do it for you.
Speak to you, Sarah, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Right, I'll speak to you soon.
Will do. Take care.
Bye.
Storm DJs Podcast.